Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 5 of View from the Post. In this particular episode, we are going to talk about how you will verify that your paddle is on the USA Pickleball approved list. My name is Bob Swisshelm. I'm a USA Pickleball certified referee and one of the members of the APP head ref team.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Mike Baumgartner, certified referee, and also the director of officiating for the APP Tour. Glad to have you here today.
So today we want to talk to you about how important it is that you actually verify that your paddle is on the approved list. If you've been to a tournament recently, you've probably noticed that we're asking the referees to be much more persistent during the pre-match briefing to ask you point blank, have you verified that the your paddle is on the USA Pickleball approved list? Because per rule and per the player instructions that you receive from the tournament, we make it very clear that it is your responsibility to do that. In a subsequent uh, uh, um, episode number 6, we're going to talk about the consequences of you presenting an invalid or unapproved paddle in the match. This episode, we're going to talk about how you verify that that is there, but it's incredibly important. And we're stressing here that it is your responsibility. So we're going to help you make sure that you have that responsibility. Mike, anything you want to say before we do a quick demo?
Yeah, so as Bob talked about, the referees are asking you, have you validated that your paddle is on the USA approved list? And it's important that you've done that step prior to coming to the tournament. So you don't want to come to a sanctioned tournament that with an unapproved paddle. There are consequences associated with that. As Bob said, we'll talk about that in episode 6. But today in episode 5, we want to focus on and show you how to get to the tool that will tell you if your paddle is it's how you can verify your paddle on the list. So Bob, I know you're going to pull that up and share it with our friends out there and just kind of walk through it.
All right, here we go. So the first thing that you'll want to do is to go to usapickleball.org. And then under the play option, you'll see something that says approved equipment. When you do that, it's going to bring up a website, another website that allows you then to click on paddle list. Once you get this far, assuming that you have a number of paddles that you may want to check, or if you're a referee, I strongly suggest that you bookmark this particular website so that it's much easier for you to come to find. But as I said, the way that you would do that is you go to USA Pickleball, play, approved equipment, and then click on this little thing that says paddle list up here at the top. Generally, when you do the search, you're going to want to provide one or both pieces of information that the rules say that the paddle has to have on it. One is the manufacturer name and the other is the model number. And so you have those capabilities of being able to do a search. So let's say, for example, I currently am liking the Yola Carbon Perseus, the older version of the Perseus 16 millimeter. So if I wanted to do a search on that, I could do a search on Yola, and then it's going to give me a long list of all of the various different Yola paddles that are on there, and I can scroll through this list to find it. Optionally, I could include Perseus, and let's say I say Perseus 16 millimeter. And now notice that what you'll see that it's doing here is taking each one of the words in the model name and doing a search on that. Because yes, this is a Yola paddle. Yes, it is. It's not even. I'm not exactly sure why Hyperion showed up because it says 14 millimeter rather than 16 millimeter. But at least it is beginning to limit those a little bit more. So if I scroll down through this list. Let's do this. And this is part of the fun of why we show you this, is that it tends to be a little bit of an art to be able to do this. So let's just do a search on the word Perseus. And hopefully that will actually be a little bit more restrictive. So now you see that we got the Perseus 4, which is the newer model that I don't have, 14 millimeter, 16 millimeter. And then when we come down here, we'll actually see um, the Ben John's Perseus carbon 16 millimeter. So this right here is my paddle. And so you will want to verify that that paddle picture matches yours. It doesn't have to match it exactly because you will find that sometimes the manufacturers differ in some of the surface graphics that they have on there. But the paddle does need to make sure that it uses that specific model name and the manufacturer name.
Yeah, so Bob, let's talk about that a little
Yep.
bit. So when the referees are out on court and they're validating paddles to make sure they're okay, they are looking for those two particular things. And uh, as far as the model name and the manufacturer's name, correct? So in this particular paddle, when we look this up and we see that it's okay, but when you bring it out to court, the referee is looking for the Yola, which we see there on the side, and then the Perseus. So the Yola is the manufacturer and Perseus is the model name, along with the USA Pickleball approved logo on there as well. So again, when you're coming out to court, or before you even come to the tournament, you want to make sure that your paddle is on this list. And then when you bring it out to court, the referee shouldn't have any problems understanding that your paddle is approved for play.
Now the list only includes paddles that have passed testing. And so if the paddle was never on the list, you won't see it. If the paddle was on the list but then was removed for whatever reason, you might have seen it before, but you won't see it now. For example, in July 1st of this year, 2025, there were a number of paddles that USA Pickleball had announced about 6 months ago that they were going to delist. So the statement, you may truthfully answer the question, yes, I confirm that my paddle was on the approved list, but if you did that a few months ago, that paddle that was on the list before is not on the list now. So that's an important thing to realize. Um,
So
Go
Bob,
ahead.
let's look at the paddle let's do another example.
Okay.
So I like to use the owl. I use an owl paddle when I play. I enjoy, the owl paddle itself. And so I use an owl PXE.
Okay. So if I search on the word owl, you'll see here that not only does it pull up the owl paddles, but it also pulls up other manufacturers that contain the string OWL in it. So we have that, right? You said that you used a PXE, so I'm going to clear out the search string and just put in PXE. And in that situation, we find that
It goes
um,
right to my
it
paddle.
goes right to your paddle.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
talk briefly. You want to tell any stories about the history of the owl paddle in relationship to its uh, access on the list and also what the requirement is to be able to use it in a tournament?
Well, the owl paddle is a quiet paddle. It is also on the approved list for quiet pickleball play equipment. But in general, you'll see that it has a logo or a graphic on the face of the paddle. And again, we reference, the model name and the manufacturer itself. So historically, when the owl first came out, it did not have some of the requirements. So a referee had to put a sticker on there. And now that has been changed. So the owl paddle now has the proper identifications on it. So when you purchase an owl paddle, you'll see that on there, and it'll have the USA Pickleball approved stamp on there and everything. So it's a great paddle, and I enjoy using it. So
And as we've mentioned in our next episode, episode 6, Mike's actually going to bring up the rule relating to what's the requirement for an approved paddle. Two pieces of information that need to be visible on the paddle in some way, either on the face or on the edge guard or on the butt cap, are the manufacturer name or logo, and then the model number or model classification. And as Mike mentioned, this is actually a picture of the original Owl PXE, and you'll notice that it does not actually have PXE on this side of the face or on the other side of the face. So the first times that we saw that in tournament play, we, the referees, were forced by rule to disallow the use of the paddle at that tournament. And then what happened is that the tournaments were now then given a bunch of stickers that we put on the butt cap that designate what the manufacturer, or sorry, what the model name is. So if you actually currently have an owl paddle, and it's one of the first versions of the owl paddle, and you don't have that sticker, even though it's on the list, it still needs to have both of those pieces of identification so that it can be used in a tournament. If you have not received that sticker from the manufacturer, talk to your head ref, tournament director. Most of the time, they have those stickers because this has been a relatively big issue with this particular paddle. But as Mike said, now the most recent runs of this paddle have not only the manufacturer and the model name, but also the USA Pickleball approved stamp.
Yeah, so if you have an older model, don't hesitate to bring it and use it. It's a great paddle. There are ways to ensure that it's meeting the qualifications of USA Pickleball's rules on site.
And then the final piece of information, hopefully what we've done here is we've shown you how to use this list to find your paddle. The next thing that you should do is remember how you got there, right? Remember specifically what the manufacturer name that was that you searched. An example that we got caught with earlier was that the paddle says one of the paddles, there's a manufacturer called Element 6 Pickleball, or often those paddles show up as E6 on the paddle face. But inside the database, you may see that as Element 6 Pickleball. So whatever term, search term you used, either model number or name that you used to successfully get here, remember that. Because if the referee says, well, I trust you, but I need to verify that. If you provide them with that information, that will speed up that process and allow everybody to get on with their life. So once you've done this, please record that. Any final comments, Mike?
No, I think it's been a nice podcast. We put together the information that's needed to quickly understand and validate your paddle before coming to a sanctioned tournament. So I highly suggest that you do that. And in our next episode, as we've said a couple of times, we'll go into what if, what are the penalties associated with not having an approved paddle with play before the match, during the match, after the match? What are the rules?
All right, so quick summary. You go to USA, it is your responsibility to confirm that your paddle is on the USA Pickleball approved list. You do that by going to usapickleball.org, pick the play and then approved equipment, or you can go to equipment.usapickleball.org. You will use the manufacturer and the model number to find that information to confirm that the paddle is on that list. Have that in your hip pocket so that if your referee does ask you for those details, you can do so. Again, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the courts.
Thank you.